Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. The stable version of OneUI 7 is already available on the S25 models, so I thought of showing you each and every feature added to this new software by doing a side-by-side comparison with OneUI 6.1 on the S24 Ultra. This video is insanely long because the update is insanely massive and I spent 4 days in a row just to finish this video, so please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to see more. And now let's jump into the new features. Before starting, if you like any of the wallpapers I use in this video or any of my other videos, they are now available on the Wallpapers by In-Depth Tech Reviews app that you will find its Google Play Store download link in the description. And now let's take a look at the new features. Let's start with the always on display and lock screen. And the first thing you will notice here is the different layout. In OneUI 7, it looks cleaner. That's because the battery percentage is no longer showing at the bottom, but you can see it in the battery icon at the top right corner, and the notification icons stay in the status bar instead of showing under the clock. So it gives you the same exact look as your home screen, unlike OneUI 6.1 that has two different layouts. The second change is the redesigned lock screen shortcuts. They are now circular and bigger, plus the fingerprint icon is now using a light gray color instead of white like before. Now let's talk about the lock screen customization options, and here you will find a lot of new changes, and let's start with the clock. First, you will see redesigned handles for resizing the clock. Plus, in OneUI 7, you can push the clock all the way down to be exactly in the center, which wasn't the case before. You also get this new guideline when you try to center the clock to help you see it visually, but previously all you get is a magnetic effect when you go over the center. And when I choose the same design on both and try to make my clock bigger, this is the biggest size I can get, while in OneUI 7, as you see, it gets much bigger. Now let's talk about the differences in the overlay card. Previously, everything used to appear in the same page, but now we have two separate tabs, one for the font and color and one for the style. The new design is also more compact, yet it gives you more options. When you take a look at the fonts, you will see they are exactly the same, no difference here. But what we got with OneUI 7 is the new font weight slider that only works with the default font. Once you choose another font, it becomes grayed out. And here when you scroll all the way down, you will see a toggle to show the weather information, which is now located under the Style tab. But we also got a new one for showing the date above the clock. Looking at the styles offered by each one, you will see some differences. First, this analog clock design is no longer showing, and the no clock option is also gone. But you will get two new styles with OneUI 7. Here's the first one, and this is the second. I also found that the gradient colors don't work with these two new styles. So if you have any of them selected, you will see they are grayed out. You can only choose a solid color. But once you change to a different style like this one, for example, that's when you can use them. So that's it when it comes to the overlay card. Now let me show you even more. First, the contact information section is now gone from OneUI 7. Plus, if you are using one of the stock wallpapers that comes with the UI, you no longer need to go to wallpapers first to choose a different color like this. But now you have a new button called variations. Tapping on it will show you all the colors right away, so you can change it, and that's a lot easier. The home/lock screen swap button is no longer using the spill-shaped design, but it's a text-only button in OneUI 7. Moving to the lock screen shortcuts, when you tap on it in OneUI 7, it will push the wallpaper up, and when you scroll up, it will stay like this. Plus, it will highlight the shortcut you are currently modifying, unlike 6.1 that just overlays a card on top of the screen. So if you forgot which one you tapped on, you have to scroll down, tap on it again just to make sure. So that makes things easier. The card itself also got some design tweaks. First, the handle at the top is now bigger and using a light gray color instead of black. And when you take a look at the items, you will see two different categories, one for the system actions, and then we have apps. The system actions are all in gray color, while the apps are using normal icons, while in OneUI 6.1, everything is using colorful icons, which is a bit confusing. Now it looks visually more pleasing. Another thing you will notice here, the Actions section in OneUI 6.1 used to have some apps like the calculator, the voice recorder, and the camera, which are now located under the Apps section, and that makes more sense. Plus, we got more options to add to the lock screen, which are mainly from your quick setting styles, like the sound, the flight mode, mobile data, power saving, and so on and so forth. And finally, the flashlight option is now called Touch. Now let's compare the lock screen widgets. The first thing you will notice is the name is different. Here we have a plus sign and then the word widgets. Now we have add widgets, and when you tap on both, you will see new options. So let's go through them one by one. Starting with the battery, you will see the same options but with different design. Then we have the calendar, which got much more options in OneUI 7. Now you have 6 different widgets instead of 2. We also got brand new sections that didn't exist before. Starting with the camera, you have 2 different sizes. Both do exactly the same thing. You can give your camera widget a name, choose a starting mode, save the photos and videos to a specific album, and activate the watermark option. It's exactly the same thing as your camera home screen widget. Moving to the clock, you will see the same exact options but with new designs. Here we have a new section called Device Care that gives you a shortcut for the Device Care menu and another one to immediately optimize the device. Then we have the Digital Wellbeing, which got 2 different widgets to choose from, the Screen Time and App Timers. Then we got another one called the Gallery, which will show images and stories from your gallery directly on the lock screen. And this is how it works. When you tap on Start, you need to allow access. You can select specific images or albums. So let's say you want to select an album, you're gonna choose the camera, tap on Done. And when you go back to your lock screen, this is how it looks. Then we have the interpreter widgets that includes 4 different options. You have listening and conversation modes, or you can set both to a specific language directly. And the same applies to the modes and routines. You can go to the routines page or set it to a specific routine. Back to the similar sections, here we have reminder that got slightly different design. And then we have Samsung Health, which also got a different design. Then we have the voice recorder. You have 2 options, voice recorder or voice recorder with the time. And then we have the weather that also got updated. It looks slightly different than before, but it offers the same options. Now let's talk about the most exciting change in the lock screen, which is the Now bar. This is Samsung's answer to Apple's live activities. You will notice here, while playing media, I'm getting this bar at the bottom, while in OneUI 6.1, I'm getting the full media card that I can minimize like this. In OneUI 7, it's already minimized, but when you tap on it, it will expand, showing you the album art, the song details, and then you will get the expanded media controls. And when you tap on it one more time, it will minimize like this. One of the things I like about the Now bar is the ability to interact with it on the always on display without the need to go to the lock screen first. So for example, if I want to pause the music, I can double tap on the play and pause button. I can change tracks like this. But this is something you cannot do in OneUI 6.1. You have to go to the lock screen first to be able to interact with the controls. Now let's go to the Now bar settings to show you what else you can do. When you go to settings and then lock screen and always on display and then Now bar, you will see all the options over here. The first section is called Live Notifications, which now includes 2 new options that didn't exist in beta. The first one is Maps, and then we have Sports from Google. And when you tap on View More, here you will get Samsung Health, Interpreter, Clock, Voice Recorder, Samsung Notes, and Emergency Sharing. Then we have the Now Brief, which is a new feature that comes with the S25 Ultra that will give you a brief about your day. And then we have the Media Player and the current mode if you are using the modes and routines. So for example, let's start a stopwatch, for example, and then go to the lock screen. As you see, the stopwatch is now running, and this is how you can switch between different cards. And this is how it looks when you expand. You can set a lap, you can pause, take actions like this, without the need to unlock the phone, or you can cancel the whole thing if you want to, like this. Let me also show you how Google Maps navigation looks in the Now bar. It will give you the distance and directions, and this is how it looks when you tap on it. It will give you a bigger view with the ability to exit the navigation directly from here. And when you charge the phone, you will see a new animation in the Now bar. This is how it looks. As you see, it has a blue color because I'm using a fast charger, and it will briefly show you the battery percentage when you plug the charger. But if you are using a slow charger, it will turn into a green color. Last but not least, you also get the ability to hide or show the Now bar from your always on display. So for example, when you go to settings and then display, then always on display, you have here a toggle to show or hide the Now bar. So that's it when it comes to the lock screen. Now let's talk about the home screen. The first change is the redesigned plus button when you open the folder. Change number 2, now you have the ability to enlarge the folder in OneUI 7, which wasn't the case before. And when you tap on enlarge, it will require more space. So let's take it to another spot. And here is how it looks. By this, you can immediately open the app by tapping on it right away. Customizing your home screen widgets is also different. So let's take a look at both. Here you have a slider to change that transparency from 0 to 100%, which is now gone. But you have the ability to turn the background on or off entirely, with the ability to change the widget shape. And when you scroll down, now you have the ability to force the widget to light or dark theme instead of only using the match with dark mode option. But when you try another widget, you will see inconsistency. Now we have a transparency slider with this one, but it only offers 3 levels. And instead of using this precise slider, which I like more, we still have the same background color option, but we are not able to change the background shape in this case. And here you have the ability to change the calendar that you can show over here, which is missing from OneUI 6.1. But we're going to talk about the widgets in detail later in the video. When it comes to customizing the home screen itself, there is a long list of new changes. This toggle is now called Media Page. And when you go to the Wallpaper and the Style app, then change Wallpapers, you will see that the Create with AI options are now rectangular. Also, when you go to Color Palette, you will see some changes. Now the page has a header, and the Apply Palette to App Icons is now under the Color Palette option instead of being separated with the wallpaper colors, which makes more sense. Moving to the home screen settings, the first change is this new section that will allow you to change your app size. You have 3 different sizes to choose from. This is the biggest one you can get, and here is the smallest. This is how it looks on the home screen. And then we have the ability to activate or deactivate the app labels. And when you deactivate it, this is how it looks. It will remove the folder names and the app names entirely to give you this cleaner look. But when you turn on the app labels, you also have the ability to turn the widgets labels on or off. And this is how it looks when you turn it on. You have search, you have weather, but it doesn't work with each and every app. In this case, YouTube Music and Google Home don't show any labels, but you can see it in calendar and the other ones I have. Let's continue with the home screen settings. And when you go to the home screen grid, you will see less options with OneUI 7. Now we have 4x6 or 5x6, but we used to have 4 different options with the previous version. And the same applies to the apps screen grid. We're only getting 2 instead of 4, but the folder grid is exactly the same. And finally, the home screen landscape orientation is much better on OneUI 7. As you see, all the icons are much bigger. The dock is now located on the right side instead of being at the bottom. And that gives the apps a normal look when you are in landscape instead of having this tiny icons and stretched items. And when you go to the app drawer, you will see the same thing. The icons are in full size rather than using this smaller size. And those 2 buttons are now centered and bigger. So that's it when it comes to the home screen settings. Now let's talk about the recent apps screen, and here you will see some design changes. First, the apps now stack on top of each other instead of being next to each other like before. We have the same close all and suggestions at the bottom, but the task manager now got this redesigned look. We also lost the search button at the top right corner, and all we have now is the ellipses that takes you to the same exact settings page, no difference here. And if you have two apps running in a split screen view, now you have the ability to tap on the icon at the top to add the app pair to your home or apps edge panel. But previously, this option didn't exist. You can only do it by tapping on the three dots in the middle, which is still the case with OneUI 7, but you got one extra shortcut. The app drawer also got updated, and the first change is the thicker search bar. It's now located at the bottom for easier reachability, and when you tap on it, it will change into a solid white color instead of being translucent like before. And when you tap on the microphone icon, you will get a redesigned card. You will also notice that these sections are now more translucent in OneUI 7 if I'm using the same exact wallpaper. Now let's move on to the settings to show you more changes. The show settings, searches and suggestions is now called show settings topics, and we got two new options: search text in documents and show web search suggestions. But it doesn't only stop here. In OneUI 7, you can make your app drawer scrolling vertical instead of only horizontal like before. To achieve this, you need to tap on the ellipses and then sort. When you choose alphabetical order in OneUI 7, it will change into vertical scrolling instead of sticking to the same horizontal scrolling like before. Plus, when you start scrolling like this, you will see the scroll bar on the right side that will allow you to jump to a specific letter by dragging your finger over it like this. Now let's talk about the new changes in the status bar, and the first one you will notice here is the bolder font in comparison. Some of the icons that used to appear on the left, like the do not disturb, now show on the right side. The battery icon is now different. It's horizontal with the battery percentage showing inside instead of showing next to each other like before. I have the stopwatch running in the background on both, but there is a massive difference between the two. We used to get only a clock icon at the top left corner, but now you will see this pill that will show you more information. First, you can immediately see the time elapsed, and when you tap on it, it will expand into a card similar to the one we saw in the now bar. From here, you can take the same exact actions like pausing, resuming, canceling, and when you start multiple activities like the voice recording, for example, when you tap on the pill, it will give you access to both cards that you can switch between them by swiping down like this. And when you expand the quick settings, you will see some differences as well. The clock and date have different designs that look better in my opinion. Also, the status bar icons will all be combined on the right side, but here some of them will be hidden. For example, I have the do not disturb, the Bluetooth, the NFC, but I don't have do not disturb in OneUI 6.1. It only appears on the left side. Plus, it's more compact in OneUI 7 to give you more space. Now it's time to talk about the quick settings and notifications shade, and here I combine them together to do a quick side-by-side comparison, and then I will show you the new settings in OneUI 7. The first change is the slightly bigger tiles at the top. The brightness slider got redesigned. Instead of having this flat end, it's now curved to match the other end of the slider. We also got this new translucent effect. The lower the brightness, the more translucent it becomes, and vice versa. And when you touch the slider, you will see this circle where your finger touches, which wasn't the case before. Then the do not disturb is no longer showing a notification, but it shows this text at the top. And then we have this redesigned notification banners that are more rounded and more translucent in comparison. The notification settings and the clear buttons are now bigger, and this gear icon in the notification settings button is now gone. You will also see slightly redesigned overlay menus. So for example, when I expand the brightness, you will see that OneUI 7 is using a bolder font and everything is taking more space. Another example is the Wi-Fi overlay card. You will see the same differences. Here's a good example to show you how OneUI 7 stack multiple notifications from the same app on top of each other. And for example, you will see this stack 3D effect at the bottom along with the counter, while in 6.1 you don't see the same thing. And when you slide your finger over it, it will show you the app header and the collapse button. But previously, when you slide your finger, it will first expand like this. And then when you slide again, it will do the same thing, but you'll notice that the app header is now bigger in OneUI 7. Now let me show you the new changes in the expanded quick panel. First, the date and time are now gone. Everything have more rounded corners. The tiles grid is now 4 by 5 instead of 4 by 3, so you see more icons at the first glance. And if you want to expand, you need to slide your finger over the handle, which will allow you to scroll vertically instead of using the pagination technique. And then we have this section that got more options. For example, you can change the volume immediately from here, or change your notification settings, which are missing from 6.1. The dark mode button is now next to the brightness slider, which makes more sense, but we lost the eye comfort shield. In contrast, we got more panels. The first one is the new media panel that will allow you to immediately play the last song and change the media output. Plus, we got 2 new shortcuts, one for the nearby devices and one for modes, which are missing from 6.1, in addition to the same 2 old options, the Smart View and device controls, but they got different designs. Now let's talk about editing your quick panel, and here you will see totally different behaviors. In 6.1, tapping the edit button will take you to this page, while here it will stay inline to give you the chance to reorder the panels the way you want, like this. And we also got the ability to resize the quick tiles. You can make it smaller, and when you tap on done, it will look like this, or you can make it bigger, and here's how it looks. And if you want to add more tiles, you can immediately tap on this edit button, which will take you to this page. But if you want to edit the top row, you have to go inside the panel settings and then edit top quick settings. While in 6.1, it's slightly easier in this part. Here you have 2 edit buttons, one for the top row and one for the full size. Back to the panel settings to show you even more. Now you have the ability to separate your quick panel from the notifications shade, and when activated, when you swipe from the top right corner, it will show you the expanded quick panel. When you swipe from the top left, it will show you only the notifications, and the same applies to the home swipe down gesture. You can also switch between the 2 panels by sliding your finger over the top. But in 6.1, all you get is something called Quick Settings Instant Access. When activated, you can get the same expanded quick panel when you swipe from the top right corner, but swiping from the top left will show you both together, and you don't get the option to separate them like in 7.0. Another new feature added is the ability to switch places between the quick panel and notifications shade. And when you activate this toggle, now when you swipe from the top right corner, it will be the notifications, while from the top left, it will be the quick panel. And this toggle is called Quick Panel on left side. Back to the Together option, and here you will see the rest of the settings are exactly the same, like the brightness control or device control and media output buttons. Now let's talk about the new changes in the widgets picker. The first thing you will notice here is the recommended section is no longer showing a header, plus you are getting more options to choose from because it has a 2-column grid instead of only 1. Now let's talk about the new widgets added with OneUI 7.0. The first one is called Now Brief, which is currently exclusive to the S25 models. When added, it will always show you this glowing animation. Tapping on it will give you the Now Brief screen. It will show you things like your alarms, the weather, and some other information that you can adjust by tapping on the gear button. Here you have something called Content to Include, and you have plenty of things to choose from. And you can also activate the Expand Now Brief without unlocking, and that will allow you to access your Now Brief if you got the notification in the Now bar. And finally, we have the More Galaxy AI features that will show you the full list of Galaxy AI. The Smart Suggestions widget is now called Suggest Apps, and you can find it alphabetically ordered with more sizes to choose from and a different style as well. Next, we have the battery widgets. You will get multiple circular designs to choose from, and when you compare the bar design, you will see that now the text shows inside the bar itself to give more space instead of showing side by side like before. The Bixby Vision widgets are now gone in OneUI 7.0, but you will see much more calendar widgets to choose from. We have the first section, which is called Countdown, then we have Month, and then we have Today, then Upcoming Events, while here all you get is the month and today, list, and countdown. The calendar widgets don't only look different, but they will give you more options. So for example, if I want to add this countdown to my home screen on both, when I tap on each one and then choose the event I want to track, here it will immediately show you the information, but in 7.0 you have much more options. For example, you have the start from 1, you can change the event later. You can also adjust the background and put something custom to the widget as a background, and then you have the ability to change the widget design, and this is how it looks at the end. And as I mentioned before, in OneUI 7, any calendar can now be linked to a specific calendar by just going to the settings and then tap on calendars to show. You can make it same as app or select a specific one from the list. The camera widget also got updated with multiple new sizes and designs. So let's add both to the home screen. In 6.1, this is the biggest size you can get, and this is the smallest one. You cannot resize it horizontally, but here you have the option to make it big like this, or when you make it smaller, it will give you this new shape, and this is how it looks when you make it the smallest size. I also found that when you make it this medium size and then tap on it, it will give you the chance to change the shape, and you have multiple options to choose from, but the other sizes don't give you the same menu. And as you see here, it doesn't do the same. And here's a quick look at the different clock widgets. Now you have plenty more options to choose from, and they are categorized as shown now on the screen. Especially the dual clock one now looks totally different. Here's the new contacts widgets. 4 digital care widgets instead of only 2. You also get 8 digital well-being widgets versus 2 in 6.1. The gallery widget also got a complete revamp. Instead of having only one design, now we have 3. And when you add it to your home screen, it gives you the chance to select what photos to show. You can select an album or images, while in 6.1, it immediately goes to the memories. So for example, when I select an album, I still can go to settings and choose more stuff. For example, I can modify the photos later, and I can also change the display method. You can make it fit to widget, stretch to fill widget, or center and fill. And when you change it to the medium size, which is this shape, you can change it under settings as well to something else, which is the same thing I showed you in the camera widget. We got plenty of new Samsung Health widgets, 4 internet widgets instead of only 2, 6 interpreter widgets instead of only 1. The magnifier widget got redesigned. Modes and routines got a lot of new options to choose from. More widgets under notes with more colors in them. And here's a quick look at the reminder widgets. The smart things also got some new options like the home insight. You have multiple routine designs. And finally, we have the screen remote, which didn't exist before. The voice recorder app is a new addition to the collection, and these are the widgets you will get. And finally, the weather widgets got updated as well. Now let's talk about the new changes in the AI writing tools, and here I have a quick example. In 7.0, I'm using Gboard and Keep Notes, which are not Samsung apps, but I still can get access to the AI writing tools anywhere throughout the OS by highlighting the text and then tap on this button. In 6.1, to be able to use the same feature, you have to use Samsung Keyboard, and here is how they look side by side. First, to get a gradient background instead of this solid color, you have a quick access to the Writing Assist settings where you can adjust even more stuff. And also, you get this X button to dismiss the AI card instead of using the keyboard button like before. And now let's try the spelling and the grammar to see the differences. At the top, you get a header to let you know the currently used AI tool, and you can always see the original text by swiping left and right, which didn't exist before. The insert button is now called replace, and the buttons are located at the bottom right corner for easier reachability. Plus, in OneUI 7, you can get back to the previous page by just tapping this back button, but in 6.1, you have to get back to the keyboard and then tap again on the AI button to reach the previous menu. Let's take a look at the writing style. And here you will see another difference in the design. Here you will get everything in a list, while here you can swipe left and right. Additionally, OneUI 7 will give you more options like the ability to summarize, convert the text into bullet points or a table, and then we have the composer on both, which works exactly the same. You get the same exact options either way. And here you can write your own text and compose something new. And as you see, the generate button looks totally different on both sides. Now let's talk about Gemini integration on the S25 models, which will probably be the case when OneUI 7 gets released to the older models. Now when you press and hold on the side button, it will trigger Gemini as your default assistant instead of Bixby. The second change is the integration with Samsung apps. So for example, it can interact with Samsung Notes or the Reminder app. So let me show you a quick example. Create a list of the top attractions in Dubai and add it to Samsung Notes.
All right, I created a new list called Top Attractions in Dubai.
The third change is the ability to talk to Gemini Live about anything you see on the screen. So for example, I'm gonna play this video and then trigger Gemini and then tap on Talk Live. It will copy the YouTube video link and allow me to start talking about the video.
All right, I got the video comparing the S25 Ultra to the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Any questions about it? Maybe you want to talk about the battery life results?
Yes, please.
All right, so the 16 Pro Max had the best battery life. It only used 10% battery during the 30-minute test, while
And the last addition is related to Circle to Search. Now you can use the feature to identify songs playing in videos by using the song search feature like this. So as you see, it identified the song name. Now let's talk about the new changes in the camera app, and here we have a lot of new changes to talk about, which makes OneUI 7 much easier to use. Most of the toggles that we used to have at the top are now located under this new menu for easier reachability. It will still show you some of the options here at the top right corner that are also accessible from the same menu, so you can use whatever you prefer. The leveler also got updated and you will see a major difference between the two in this orientation, and I prefer the one in 7.0, which is easier to use. Similarly, if you are holding your phone in a vertical position, now you will get a new leveler that will help you align the photo vertically and horizontally, not only horizontally like before. The zoom slider also got updated. First, it got a fill color to make it easier to see. The 2x enhanced zoom option is now added to the list instead of tapping twice in 6.1. Plus, when you tap on any of the zoom levels, it will show you more shortcuts on the right side instead of showing a whole different row of options. But when you slide your finger over it, that's when you will see the same design of 6.1. And the camera modes are now showing under instead of over the shutter key. When it comes to adjusting the exposure in 6.1, your only option is to tap to focus first and then use the exposure slider, which is still there in 7.0, but now we have a new slider under the more menu that you can access from here, and this is how you can adjust the brightness. Plus, it will save your preference. So for example, if I switch to the back camera and then back to the front, I still see the same exposure level I chose already. When it comes to the filters in 6.1, this button combines the filters and the face options together in one menu, but now we have two separate buttons, one for the filters and one for the face. Comparing the face menu, as you see, it got a slightly different design with this new on and off button that gets highlighted in yellow when it's on, and then it becomes gray when it's off, while previously it was using the same color for both. Then we have a dedicated one for the filters, and here you will see slightly different design as well. The plus button that used to be on the very far left, it's now next to the original. Tapping on it will allow you to choose a photo and use it as a filter and then hit create. It does exactly the same here, but tapping on it will give you two options, either to create a filter similar to the way I just showed you, but it will also give you the option to download new filters from the store. But the download option is now located at the very end of the list by tapping on this download button. Also on the S25 Ultra series, you will get much more options when it comes to adjusting the filters. You have the strength, you have the color temperature, contrast, saturation, and film grain. But in 6.1, all you get is just the filter strength. Moving to the video mode, you will see some differences as well. The super steady option icon is now different in 7.0. Plus, you have a quick toggle for activating the HDR 10-bit at the top right corner. The auto framing option is no longer showing here on the right, but you can access it from the More menu over here. In portrait mode, the portrait effects button is now located on the left side instead of showing on the right side like before, and it gives you the same exact options. I couldn't spot any difference between the two. Moving to the More menu, you will see a complete revamp. The Bixby Vision button is now located over here, and the AR zone option is completely gone. Then you have the edit button over here, which used to be this plus button. And then we have everything showing in the viewfinder, and the card itself has a translucent effect and it's more compact to make it easier for you to see what's in your viewfinder. The Expert Raw app also got a complete revamp with 7.0. Some of the features I will show you might be exclusive to the S25 models, but I will show you the differences anyways. The first thing you can do on OneUI 7 is the ability to take raw images in 200 megapixel, which wasn't the case before. And here we have a new toggle to switch between raw JPEG, RAW, or JPEG, which used to be under the settings menu. The buttons that you see at the top over here are now located under this new button. I also found this new option under the More menu called Exposure Monitor, and when you tap on it, it will give you zebra pattern and false color. The controls at the bottom got a complete revamp, and the lens switcher is no longer overlaying inside the viewfinder, but it's located outside. And the autofocus or the focus options are now using this separate button on the left that will allow you to change between multi or manual and center, or adjust the focus using the slider. Previously, to achieve the same thing, it was a bit confusing. You have to tap on focus first and then tap on this one to switch between auto or manual, and then you can tap on this one to switch between multi and center. You will also notice that now we have the ability to adjust the aperture, but when you tap on it, it will tell you to change the aperture, tap Expert Raw Labs and turn on Virtual Aperture, which is this button, and then tap on the Virtual Aperture. It will then give you a slider to adjust your aperture like this, but as you see, it only works with the wide angle camera. But this feature is entirely missing from the S24 Ultra. And lastly, you will see slightly bigger sliders under each of these options. That looks much better in my opinion. Moving to the Pro mode, you will see pretty much the same changes. Everything is leaning more towards the simplicity. You will no longer see the headers over the values, but they are next to each one, and this is how they look side by side. Then you will notice that I also have this new exposure monitor option that I can switch between zebra and false color. And here we also have a new icon for the color tone. Both are exactly the same, but it got a new icon. And that's pretty much it in the Pro mode. In the Pro video mode, everything is organized pretty much the same way as I showed you before, but what's new here is the ability to turn on the HDR 10-bit and the log recording, but the log recording is exclusive to the S25 models. And if you want to add the log toggle to the normal video mode, you can simply jump to settings and then advanced video options and then log, and here you will find an option called video and the Pro modes. And by this, when you go to the normal video mode, you will see it right over here. In the panorama mode now, you can adjust the exposure by tapping on the More menu, and you will get the slider, which is missing from 6.1. The slow motion on the S25 Ultra is much more powerful. First, you can use the HDR 10-bit recording, and if you set the resolution up to full HD 240 frames per second, you can use all lenses with no restrictions. And when you switch to Ultra HD 120, you can use the ultra wide and the wide angle, while on the S24 Ultra running 6.1, you cannot do any zoom and you don't have the HDR option. In hyperlapse mode, you can use all lenses on the S25 Ultra, including the 5x telephoto, which is missing from the S24, and also you have the same HDR 10-bit toggle. In portrait video, you will get the same HDR 10-bit toggle, but we lost some of the effects that used to appear in this area, so you no longer see the big circle, color point, or glitch. But all you get here is a slider to adjust the blur effect intensity, and that's pretty much it. The dual recording also supports HDR 10-bit. The single take mode got a new feature called pre-recording, which will record some videos and photos before even hitting the shutter key. As you see, it's moving already, and then you can tap on the shutter key to start recording. Plus, you get the ability to capture still images while recording a single take video. Now let's take a look at the new changes under the camera settings, and the first one is under the advanced picture options. Here we got a new menu item called motion photo capture. When you tap on it, it will give you two choices, either to be before and after shutter or before shutter only. That feature works when you activate the motion photos. So if you want the phone to take some frames before even hitting the shutter key, you can activate this feature. Under advanced video options, you will see some differences. The blue text under the high efficiency format is now gone. The HDR10 Plus videos are now called HDR. We have the new log option exclusive to the S25 models, and here you can choose where the toggle should appear. And when you scroll all the way down, you will see the audio playback, which will allow music and the other audio to play while recording. And the playback will pause when using a 360 audio recording or a Bluetooth microphone, which is something you need to keep in mind. In 6.1, we have a toggle to turn the grid lines on or off, but now we have a new composition guide menu, which will allow you to choose grid lines and level, grid lines only, level only, or turn off the entire feature. Under settings to keep, we got one more toggle for the exposure, which will keep the exposure setting even when you quit the camera. Now let's talk about the new changes in the gallery app, and the first thing you will notice here is the navigation bar at the bottom. Now it has icons and text instead of only text like before. The second change is the ability to create free-form collages. So I have a couple of photos and a video selected on both devices. Then I'm gonna tap on create and then collage. And here you have the free-form option. This is how it looks. By this, you can organize and resize the photos and videos the way you want by using the handles. But this option doesn't exist in 6.1. Plus, you get the ability to put a background image to your collage and adjust the blur effect intensity using the slider or these presets. You can remove it, or you can add a totally different image as a background for the collage, or you can choose a solid color, and here are the options you can choose from. In OneUI 6, you can put a background color under this menu, but now it's located under this new menu, and here you get only the ability to adjust the curvature. But if you have a different collage style, you can also adjust the padding, same as 6.1. And here we have a new aspect ratio option called Wallpaper that didn't exist before. And if you want to add more items to your collage, you have this always visible plus button at the top left corner that used to only appear under the collage tab. Comparing the menu options, now the trash is called recycle bin and the suggestions is called clean out. Now let me open a couple of photos to show you more changes. The first one is the new animation you get when you tap and hold on the subject. In OneUI 7, you will get this glowing animation over the subject plus an outline around it, which didn't exist before. And when I go to the AI editor on both, you will see a totally different layout. Instead of having a sketch to image button and portrait studio, we have two separate tabs for each feature that work exactly the same as before. But there are a lot of other features added as well. The first one is this button at the top right corner called Suggest Erases, which will highlight the suggestions automatically for you. And then you will get an overlay menu with move and erase options. When you tap on move, it will give you the chance to move and resize the item. And you can do the same for anything you see in the photo. On top of this, we got the undo and redo buttons at the top left corner, but previously all you get is the ability to deselect whatever you selected without any automatic suggestions, but you can only circle around things like this. And when you circle around things, you will get this solid line instead of the dotted line like before. And it's also much smarter in the selection. As you see, it got the subject exactly right, while here in 6.1, it messed up a lot of areas that I have to reselect myself, and it doesn't work as accurate. As you see here, I did circle many times to reach the same level of OneUI 7 that did work much faster for me. The only thing I see missing is this auto button next to the rotation slider, so it no longer appears in OneUI 7 no matter how many photos I try. And finally, the generate button in OneUI 7 is much bigger, and when you tap on generate on both, you will see a different glowing animation here to generate the image using AI that didn't exist before, so it looks a lot better right now. Now let's take a look at the differences in the normal photo editor, and the first thing you will notice here is the photo assist button is now using a different color, and if the shot is portrait, you will get this new item. Tapping on it will allow you to change a lot of things. The first one is the blur effect intensity, and then you get some effects like the studio effect that you can adjust the intensity, plus you can also adjust the light intensity of the subject. And this is how it works. You will see the same one in all other options. We have high key mono, and then we have low key mono, and then backdrop, and finally we have the color point. Moving to the filters, as I showed you in the camera chapter, you get the same exact controls. Here you have the strength, the color temperature, contrast, saturation, and film grain. And none of these options exist in OneUI 6.1. All you get here is the strength. So you get much more controls. The filters themselves are different as well. They have different names and styles. And here is how they look side by side. And the last change I found in this area is the new icon used for the decorations tab, but they are exactly the same, no difference. And when it comes to the object eraser, it will automatically suggest and select the items you might want to remove instead of doing it manually. In the video editor, now you have the option to undo or redo any of the edits you did. The audio controls also got updated. Instead of showing you this big white card on the screen, now you will get the controls inline. Plus, it doesn't show the soundtrack's volume slider unless you add a soundtrack to the video. So once you add it, that's when you will see the slider for the soundtrack, and you can change it later or remove it if you want. But what's new here to the S25 series is the audio eraser feature, which is very similar to the one we have on Pixel phones. It will analyze the sound in the video and give you the chance to mute certain sounds. So let's give it some time to load and see how it works. Now it's done analyzing, and all I have here is the wind and noise. When you take a look here at the progress bar, you will see the areas where this sound was captured. You can use the volume slider to adjust the volume, or you can mute it entirely by tapping on this button like this. And then you have the auto selection, which will automatically adjust the volume for both. You can also tap on here original if you want to compare between the two. So this is the updated one. And here is the original. So there is a massive difference between the two. And by the way, this feature works with any video you have in your gallery, and it doesn't have to be captured with the same camera. Another exclusive feature to the S25 series is called Best Face. When you take a motion photo using the camera and the person in the photo is blinking or looking away, you can try to fix this problem by using the Best Face feature, which is exactly the same feature we have on Pixel phones. It's called Best Take. And here, when you tap on Best Face, it will try to pick the best one in the motion photo. And as you see, it works really well. Here's another example to make things a little bit easier. Let me first play the motion photo. And as you see, in some instances, I'm looking at the camera and then I looked away. So let's see if the Best Face will be able to handle this one. And all the faces it picked, I'm not actually looking at the camera, which is weird. And you have the option to view more. So let me pick one of the faces where I'm looking at the camera. And as you see, it doesn't work. So I'm gonna give this feature some time. Maybe it's a little bit buggy and Samsung will push an update soon. Another new feature related to the motion photos is the two new effects Samsung added to the list. You have here boomerang, and the second one is called slow-mo. Moving to the Stories tab, you will see a more compact design for the created story. It will show you how old is the story, and if you have multiple ones, you will be able to scroll through them left and right. And we no longer have this carousel at the top, but everything is shifted upwards. Now you have the ability to create a story using AI by describing in your own words or by using the microphone, and this is how it looks. And when you tap on it, it will also give you the option to create story manually, and instead of tapping on the ellipses and then tap on create story like before. The favorites shortcut that we used to have on top of each story is now gone, and for you to add this story to your favorites, you have to open it, then tap the ellipses, and then tap add to favorites. But as you see, once I added the story to my favorites, now I have the same shortcut of OneUI 6.1. Moving to the search page, now the search bar is located at the bottom of the screen for easier reachability, and it has this new glowing animation to indicate that it's now using AI to give you a better search experience. And when you tap on both, you will get totally different designs. The recent searches are now a horizontal carousel, which looks totally different in comparison. And then you will get some suggested words that you can immediately add to your text box. And when you start typing, as you see, the suggested words will appear on top of the search bar instead of taking you to a separate page. So let's choose Dubai on both. And as you see here, the filters in OneUI 6.1 appear in this horizontal carousel right under the search bar, but now they appear at the bottom, and you can expand the filters to appear in this overlay card. Back to the main search page, you will notice that the locations section is now different in OneUI 7. Instead of having this interactive map front and center that shows all your photos in the search page, now you only get a thumbnail called View All, and when you tap on it, that's where it will give you the same interactive map. And once you start scrolling, it will immediately take you to the area on the map. And that design is very similar to Google Photos. Previously, to access a specific area, you have to tap on it like this, and then it will show you all the related photos, but you won't be able to see the photos taken in other areas in this case. But this one, I think, makes more sense because you can see everything, and when you reach a location, it will take you right away to this spot, so you don't need to do any effort. The filters at the bottom also got updated. For example, the shot types is now using a grid view instead of a carousel, and we got a brand new section called Activity, which includes AI edited and edited photos. Now let's talk about the new changes under settings, and the first thing I noticed is the removal of the Super HDR toggle. This feature automatically brightens up the display to show you the full range of colors and contrast when you take pictures using your Galaxy phone. Previously, if you don't like this feature, you can simply turn it off, but now it's on by default and you don't get any control over this feature. In contrast, we got a new toggle called Open in Video Player. When you turn this feature on and then play a video like this, it will show you the controls of the video player app instead of using the normal gallery controls. Next, we have a new editing section that didn't exist before. Here you have Photo Assist, and when you go inside, you will see all the AI editing features. Starting with the generative edit, you can choose to process data only on device. And then we have sketch to image. It will only give you some information about the feature, same as the Portrait Studio. The audio eraser menu item will only give you some information about the feature. And then we have a new one here called Detail Enhancer. It says automatically upscale resolution when you crop or remaster an image, or when you change the key image on a motion photo. You can set it to maximum, minimum, or off. And I think this feature is exclusive to the S25 models, because when I used to have OneUI 7 on the S24 Ultra, I didn't see this option. The last item in this list is called Photo Editor Settings. This one will give you the chance to choose if you want to edit your raw images in the raw image editor before moving to the normal one or not. Previously in 6.1, if you have a raw image, once you tap on edit, it will automatically take you to the raw editor, but now you have the chance to choose. Not to mention that the raw editor itself got a complete revamp and much more features. Previously, it used to give you only the highlights and shadows, but now you have exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, vibrance, saturation, temperature, and denoise. Plus, you have the exposure histogram at the top right corner. Back to the settings page, and under the stories section, you will see a couple of new changes. First, the customization service option is now called auto create stories, which makes more sense. When you go inside this one, you will see it does exactly the same. It will auto create stories. So that name is much easier to deal with. And then we have the hide content that didn't exist before. From here, you can choose to hide certain dates or people from your memories. And the last thing I'm going to talk about in this chapter is the new features added to the Studio app. So let's start a new project. I will select a video on both. And here you go, the videos are added. And the first thing you will notice here is the much bigger viewfinder that you can resize using this handle, which didn't exist before. We have an undo and redo buttons at the top left corner. And then you have a little square here at the beginning and the end of the video that will allow you to add a transition effect. It only supports the fade in and fade out. And here at the bottom left corner, you can use this tool to automatically cut the unnecessary parts of the video and make it shorter. And this is how it looks. You can play it. It's only 35 seconds now, or you can make a short version. And in this case, it's giving me only 6 seconds. Or you can choose a custom length using this slider and let it do the magic. And finally, when you add text or stickers to your video, you can now animate them, which wasn't possible before. You will see this new button here at the bottom. It will give you the in and out animations, and you have the loop option, and you can choose how fast is the loop. Same as the in and out, you can choose the duration of the in and out effects or animations, as you see here. So it gives you a lot more options to edit your videos. Moving to Samsung Internet, you will see one more addition when it comes to AI. Now you have the ability to read highlights aloud. This one will summarize the web page and read it for you. And when it finishes loading, you can actually translate the summary and read it in an entirely different language like this. On top of this, you have the ability to read the entire web page, which is something missing from 6.1. And this is how it works. When you tap on the card, you can adjust some settings, like the ability to install more languages, and you have plenty of them, or you can change the voice style, and here are the options. Now let's talk about the new changes in the calendar app. We already covered the new widgets. Now let's talk about the in-app features. If you want to schedule or reschedule a calendar event, all you need to do now in OneUI 7 is to hold it and then drag it to whatever day you want, which wasn't the case before. The second change is the ability to move all your calendar events from one calendar to the other. So for example, when you go to the menu and then go to manage calendars and then tap on the ellipses, you will see this new option called move events that didn't exist before. Tapping on it will allow you to select the from and to calendars, so you can move things around in just one step. Now let's talk about the reminder app, and the first change is related to the repeat option. In OneUI 7, when you choose the month or year, you will find a new option here called select dates to repeat, which means you can repeat the same reminder multiple times in the same month. And in the year, you can also do the same. You can choose multiple months from the year to repeat the same exact reminder, and those two options don't exist in OneUI 6.1. The second change under settings, now you have a new toggle here called delete completed reminders that didn't exist before. Another change related to the completed reminders, let me show them on both. Now you have the ability when you tap and hold on the completed reminders to duplicate it without doing any extra effort. And lastly, when you tap on the add reminder text box, you will see some quick shortcuts to make it easier for you to create a reminder. You will see here this calendar button that will allow you to choose a date quickly, and then you have another one for the time, and sometimes you get the location. So when I delete everything, I have here the location, and it will give you also some suggestions. Now let's talk about the new changes in the clock app. Under the alarm page, when you multi-select the alarms you have, you will see this new group option that will allow you to put all of them in a specific group, and you can name it whatever you want, then hit add. This will allow you to take bulk actions like turning on or off, or you can go inside the group to handle each one individually. And when you tap on the ellipses, you can edit the group, or you can rename it, or jump to settings from here. Also under settings, we got a new feature, which is the volume. From here, you can choose either to set the volume for each alarm separately or use one slider for all of them. You can also create a new alarm group from here and fill it later with alarms like this. And then when you go inside, you can then tap on the plus button. Next, the Modes and Routines app. The first change is the navigation bar at the bottom looks different. And when you go to Routines, now you have a search button that didn't exist before. The Discover button is now a separate tab and it has a different design. And also when you go inside Routines and try to create a new one, you will see more options. For example, when you go to the If, you will see here two new options, Commute to Work and Commute to Home. And when you scroll down to the event section, you will see a new option here called Unlock with Fingerprint. And when you go to then, you will see some differences as well. For example, when you go to apps on both, you will see that we only have the first three options in the new version, and it doesn't include phone or clock that you can find now in a separate menu items. Plus, we got more options like Gallery, Game Booster, Weather, and so on. Next, we have the Weather app, which got multiple new changes. The first one is the top row. As you see here, it looks different. Instead of having the menu over here, it's now showing only the location icon, and you can access the menu from the bottom, plus the search option that will quickly allow you to add a new city instead of going to the search under this menu. Beside the design, when you scroll down a bit, you will see a brand new section called Activity, which will help you know if the current weather is good enough for certain activities like running, cycling, or gardening. And when you tap on settings, you can add more. And lastly, now you have the ability to label the locations added to your weather app. So for example, when I tap and hold on this one, you will notice here that I have a new option called Add Label. Tapping on it will allow you to choose one of the presets, or you can write your own label. Moving to Samsung Wallet, which got a new useful feature. When you go to settings and scroll down a bit, you will see a new toggle here called Show Add Button in Airline Apps. The description says when Samsung Wallet detects that you are viewing a boarding pass in select airline apps, it will show an add button, so you can quickly add the boarding pass to your Samsung Wallet. And if you want to know the app names, you can tap on the info button. Now let's talk about the new changes in the Smart Select feature. First, it got a new icon, and when you tap on both and select something on the screen, you will see a lot of new options in the overlay menu. First, you will get this new generative edit option that will take you to the AI editor in the Gallery app. And then the sketch to image is now called Drawing Assist, but both are totally different. So let me show you how they look. This one will allow you to change the image style or use the text option to describe exactly what you want to generate, while here you can draw something and it will generate it for you. And in some cases, you might see a translate option that I couldn't get in the previous version. On a side note, the Edge panel will no longer give you the option to download more panels from the Galaxy Store in OneUI 7. Next, the phone app. And the first change is the ability to transcribe your recorded calls, and here is how it looks. Unfortunately, I don't have the call recording feature available where I live, so I'm going to show you this screenshot from the Sammy Fans website. The phone app also got some design tweaks. The first one is the updated navigation bar at the bottom that now includes icons and text. And finally, now it will give you all the Contacts app features inside the phone app to make it easier for you to manage everything from here. And some of these options are view by storage location or scanning the QR code, which are missing from here. Now let's talk about the new changes in the Game Booster app panel. As you see now, it's much bigger and it has a lot more options in comparison. All you get here is the touch protection. You can take a screenshot, and then we have the screen recording and the ability to open any of these apps in a floating window, and then you get the rest of the options over here. But now everything is available for you to see immediately, and it's much easier to deal with. Here you have all the options you might need, and you can block Bixby, block auto brightness, block edge panel if you want, and these three options don't exist in the other or the previous version. And here you have a separate tab for the pop-up apps, which also makes it easier. And then you will see this new performance percentage at the bottom that didn't exist before, in addition to the ability to access the settings from here. And you will also find some new options under the Game Booster settings. So let's go through them one by one. The first addition here is the new customizations for individual games. So for example, when you choose this game, you can choose the game optimization option. You can limit the FPS to a certain number. Then you have the screen resolution. You can set it to 50% or more. And then we have the frame booster. And this one you can turn on or off. Plus you have the ability to set the refresh rate for games. You can choose between 120 Hz or 60 Hz if you want. In contrast, what you get in 6.1 is the low refresh rate toggle that will minimize the refresh rate to 48 Hz, so you are getting more flexibility over here. Another change here is the ability to customize how you can access the in-game panel. In OneUI 7, you can choose between the shortcut bar or the notifications, which will appear in your notifications shade, while here you can turn the shortcut bar on or off, and that's all you get, with the ability to add a floating shortcut, but this one doesn't show in OneUI 7. Plus, you get the ability to reorder the tools inside the in-game panel, or you can also edit the list of apps that appear in the pop-up apps option. Now it's time to talk about the new changes under settings. The first change is under connections, and when you go to the NFC and contactless payments, you will notice that now we have the option to change the default payment app to something else. Plus, we have this new other NFC services that include the nearby and Android digital car key that you can activate or deactivate from here. Under connected devices and then quick share, you will see a new toggle here called Allow Sharing over the Internet, which didn't exist before. The description says, if a direct connection to the other device is unavailable or unstable, allow sharing over the internet using Wi-Fi or mobile data instead, which is a really cool feature. But in OneUI 7, I no longer see the auto-delete expired files option. It's gone, plus there is no set expiration as well. And when you go back to the previous page, you will see a new option here called Storage Share that didn't exist before. When you go inside, it says that this feature will allow your Samsung TV or Galaxy Book to access and use the files and the folders on this device. Unfortunately, I don't have a Samsung TV or a Galaxy Book to show you how it works, but you can see some instructions over here. Under sound and vibration, you will see that the vibrate while ringing toggle is now gone, but you can find it under the ringtone option. And when you go to the sound quality and effects on both, you will see three new options. The first one is called Boost Dialogue, which will make it easier to hear voices in videos that have other background sound. Then you have Loudness Normalization, which prevent sound from suddenly becoming too loud or too quiet while playing media. And then we have something else called App Sound Settings. It says here, if you changed sound settings in the quick panel while using a media app, settings for that app will be saved here and applied again the next time you can, or the next time you use the app. So this is also a really cool feature. Under notifications, the items are organized differently. So for example, the sort notifications option is now located under advanced settings, and we got this new menu item called status bar with this new graphical representation to choose if you want to use only dots or icons or none in the status bar. And you can also activate the show battery percentage. These options used to be under the advanced settings. Here you have the notifications and then you get the battery percentage. Under the display settings, you will see two new changes. The first one is the removal of the full screen apps menu item that doesn't do anything in OneUI 6.1. So maybe that's why it's no longer showing. And when you go to the screen saver, you will see a couple of new options. One is called Device Controls and the other one is called Photo Table. So let me show you how they look. The device control will show you the Google Home controls while charging, and when you set it to the photo table, and then tap on the gear icon to select the album. Then tap on preview. This is how it looks. It will throw some photos on the screen and you still can interact with them like this. Under battery and then power saving, we got some new toggles. The set motion smoothness to standard, turn on dark mode, and set the screen timeout to 30 seconds. But we lost one toggle, which is called turn off 5G, and the rest are exactly the same. Another change under battery is located in the battery protection. When you set it to maximum, now you have the ability to choose from 80 to 95% in 5% increments. And lastly, under the main battery settings page, you will see this new toggle called Auto Dim Screen. Dim the screen when battery is below 5%. Now you can turn off this feature. I already covered the wallpaper and the style and the home screen settings, so I'm gonna skip those and jump to the lock screen and always on display. I also covered the now bar, but I'm gonna show you even more changes. The first one is a new menu item called Contact Information. Here you can set your contact information that should appear on the lock screen. If you remember at the beginning of the video, I showed you that the contact information section disappeared with OneUI 7, and now your only option to change it is by going to the settings. One more menu item removed in OneUI 7 is called Widgets, which will allow you to activate these widgets on your lock screen, so you no longer have this option. The biometrics option is now called Screen Lock and Biometrics, and it requires your PIN code to access it, which wasn't the case before. And after entering my PIN, you will see the same exact options as before, in addition to modifying your unlocking method. And the toggle, which is called Show Unlock Transition Effect, is now located under the lock screen settings in OneUI 7. Back to the settings and then security and the privacy. When you go to the lost device protection, and instead of having only the Find My Mobile settings, now you have something else called Theft Protection. And here you have three different options. One is called Theft Detection Lock, which will lock the screen if it's detected someone took your phone and ran away. Another one called Offline Device Lock, lock the screen if your phone loses its network connection. And then you have the Identity Check, which will add some extra security layers to make your phone more secure. And you can also choose specific places that you deactivate this feature. So for example, I'm gonna choose my home, and when I tap on save, it will not activate the identity check features. Under Auto Blocker, Samsung added some extra security layers when you go to the maximum restrictions. When you scroll down, you will see two new additions here. One is called Blocks 2G Networks, and the other one blocks auto reconnection to non-secure Wi-Fi networks. And when you go back to the security settings, you will see a new menu item here called Security Status of your devices. It will automatically monitor the other devices signed into the same Samsung account to let you know their security status. I also found this new menu item called Internet Privacy Protection, which will help protect your phone from attackers. It says here 6 trackers blocked 552 times today, and you can see a week worth of data. And then you have some toggles here to activate, like block backward restrictions, block pop-ups, block apps from opening internet, warn about malicious sites, block automatic downloads, and switch to secure connection HTTPS. And this is something new, and I couldn't find the same thing in OneUI 6.1. Other than this, all the security and the privacy settings are exactly the same, but maybe they are named and organized differently. For example, this menu item is now called Controls and Alerts, but when you go inside, they are exactly the same. So you might come across this incident multiple times in this menu. Now let's talk about the new changes under the accessibility settings. And the first one is the new tests added to the touch and delay, tap duration, and ignore repeated touches. For example, when you go to the first option and then tap on set touch and then try it out, you will get these 3 circles to test your current choice. And the same applies to the other 2 options. When you go to tap duration and then try it out, you will get the same thing. While here, to test the current selected settings, you have to tap twice on this button, but now you get a separate page. And if you have the assistant menu activated, you will see a brand new way to do the pinch to zoom gesture. So when I tap on pinch to zoom on both, you will see this slider here at the bottom to do the action. While here, you can simply touch and hold, swipe up or down, or left and right like this. So if you want to zoom in, you can move right, or you can move up to zoom in. And lastly, when you go to the assistant menu settings and then tap on select assistant menu items, you will see 3 new additions: touch and hold, double tap, and scroll. But for some reason, all the controls are duplicated, which seems to be a bug in OneUI 7. Now let me show you some minor tweaks here and there, and I will start with the new file picker. So for example, when you try to attach a file to your email and then go to the My Files app, you will see totally different designs. On 7.0, you will see all the files right away, and instead of going through this menu first, and here at the top you have the different storage options and another layer of filters to choose the file type you want. And then you have a menu here at the top right corner to choose between list, detailed list, and a grid view. And you can also minimize this area at the top. You can select all items, so it's much easier to deal with now. And if you have multiple pop-up windows open from the same app, they will now be combined into one icon. Tapping on it will show you a preview of each window, so you can decide which one you want to open first. But here you don't see which one relates to what, so you have to tap on each one to know what's exactly hidden. In the video player, when the video ends, you will briefly see a repeat button at the end that will allow you to play the video over again. The lock and unlock sound in OneUI 7 also got updated, so let's take a listen. And the charging sound also got updated. And finally, we made it till the end. I'm not sure how many features I shared in this video, maybe 1 million features. And this is the first time for me to make a video that long, so please let me know in the comments what do you think, and I hope it's worth it. But for now, thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.